Once upon a time, in the heart of a charming village nestled between rolling hills and lush green fields, there were two families, the humble Johnsens and the affluent Handersens. The village, with its tight-knit community, knew everyone by name, but the Johnsens and Handersens were like two sides of the same coin, living very different lives. The Johnsens, a rural family, lived in a quaint little cottage at the outskirts of the village. Their days were filled with hard work, tending to their small farm and making the most out of what little they had. Mr.Jonsen, a cheerful man with weathered hands from years of toiling in the soil, always wore a warm smile that radiated positivity. Mrs.Jhonsen, a kind-hearted woman with a knack for turning simple ingredients into delicious meals, embraced their modest lifestyle with grace. Despite the limited resources, the Johnsens found joy in the simple pleasures of life. Their laughter echoed through the air as they gathered around the fireplace in the evenings, sharing stories and playing board games. The village recognized them as the family that brought warmth and happiness to even the gloomiest days. On the other side of the village stood the imposing Handensen mansion, a grand estate that overlooked the entire community. The Handersens were the wealthiest family in town, with a sprawling mansion, vast lands, and all the luxuries money could buy. However, the air around their opulent abode was often heavy with tension and discontent. Mr. Handerson, a successful businessman, was always engrossed in his work, barely sparing time for his family. Mrs. Handerson, though surrounded by material wealth, longed for the simple joys that seemed to elude her. Their children, accustomed to a life of excess, found little happiness in their possessions, their laughter replaced by the hollow echo of loneliness. One day, a village fair was announced, and it brought both families to the central square. The Johnsens, dressed in their best worn-out clothes, eagerly joined the festivities. Their eyes lit up with excitement as they admired the vibrant stalls, sampled homemade treats, and danced to the lively music. The Handersens, adorned in extravagant attire, arrived with an air of indifference. Their faces were masked by the burdens of their affluent lifestyle. The children, seemingly surrounded by toys and gadgets, watched the joyful gatherings with a sense of detachment. As the day unfolded, a transformation occurred. The Johnsens found joy in the simplicity of the fair. A laughter-filled sack race, the sweet melody of a local band, and the shared joy of a communal meal. The Handersens, initially skeptical, couldn't help but be enchanted by the genuine happiness that permeated the atmosphere. In a moment of serendipity, the two families found themselves side by side, sharing a bench and engaging in conversations that transcended social boundaries. The Johnsens spoke of their love for the land and the warmth of their humble home, while the Handersens realized the emptiness that lingered within their grand mansion. By the end of the fair, something magical had happened. The Handersens, inspired by the Johnsens' contentment, began to reassess their own priorities. Mr. Handerson resolved to spend more time with his family, and Mrs. Handerson yearned for the simple pleasures she had overlooked for so long. The children, introduced to the beauty of genuine connection, found joy in the laughter of newfound friends. The once distant families, united by the spirit of the village fair, discovered that true happiness wasn't measured in material wealth, but in the richness of relationships and the joy of shared experiences. As the moon illuminated the village that night, the Johnsens and Handersens walked home together, their hearts lighter, their smiles brighter, and their lives forever changed by the magic of a simple village fair.